This is Rogers TV. The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hello and welcome to the Scugog Chamber of Commerce candidate meeting. Today's show will be aired on Rogers TV, the Scugog Chamber's YouTube channel, and live streamed on Facebook. Before we begin, I'd like to welcome the chair of the Scugog Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Michael Phillip. Michael?
Thank you, John. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's program. As mentioned, my name is Michael Phillip, and I am the chair of the Scugog Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber is an organization built to help local business. We provide our member businesses with the support and knowledge they need to start and to grow their business. We also do a lot of legwork navigating pathways for businesses to get what they need from the township, the region, and the provincial governments. Throughout the year, the Chamber works to put on many events for our business community and the residents of the township of Scugog. Our series of monthly updates have been very informative. We appreciate the support of our members and township, as well as the regional and provincial governments. I wish to congratulate each of our local candidates and to thank you for running to represent us during this election. I know it's not an easy job. I look forward to hearing your answers to these questions submitted by our local community. Now I'll turn it back to you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Michael. Today's show is an opportunity for candidates to voice their opinion on issues the Chamber of Commerce feel are important to its members and to the Township of Scugog. Each candidate will have an opportunity to explain their platform and answer questions. There will be a 2-minute time restriction on each answer. After all the answers to a question have been given, each person will have an opportunity to rebut. The rebuttal will be limited to 30 seconds. The order of speakers was predetermined during a draw held prior to the start of our show. I'd like to introduce the candidates who are joining us today. Mr. Jonathan Giancroce, representing the Liberal Party of Canada. Mr. Chris Cameron, representing the New Democratic Party of Canada. Ms. Patricia Conlon, representing the People's Party of Canada, and Ms. Sarah Gabrielle Barron, who is an independent candidate. Welcome all. Thank you so much for being here today. I did want to mention that Mr. O'Toole, the representative for the Conservative Party of Canada, is unable to be here due to a conflict in his schedule. And the Green Party of Canada does not have a representative for this area. We will begin by asking each candidate to speak about their platform. Please note, as I mentioned earlier, there will be a time limit of 2 minutes. Let us begin. As I mentioned, each candidate will have 2 minutes to explain their platform. We'll begin with Mr. Giancroce of the Liberal Party of Canada.
My name is Jonathan Giancroce, and I'm the Liberal candidate here in Durham. I want to thank the Scugog Chamber of Commerce and John for hosting this discussion today. This election is about healthcare, the environment, and the economy. And we need a government that's going to tackle these issues, not ignore them. When it comes to healthcare, the Liberal government will not tie your treatment to your tax bracket. We have secured the most diverse portfolio of vaccines in the world, leading the G7 and the G20 in vaccine administration. And while the Conservatives had told everyone that we were going to get vaccines by 2030, we outperformed and we got the vaccines by September. We knew we couldn't wait any longer to take action on climate change. Scientists around the world told us that climate change is the greatest global threat to our planet as we know it, but our government saw an opportunity. Canada has a workforce, a highly skilled workforce, an education and natural resources, and an innovative spirit. And that's the perfect combination to grow our economy, because we know that a green economy is a booming economy. Canadians work a full career to make this country a better place, then retire and to struggle financially. When the Conservative government thought it was okay to increase the qualifying age to 67 for OAS and GIS, we listened to Canadians and made it to 60 and put it back to 65. But we knew it wasn't enough. And we knew that we needed to increase the old age security and the guaranteed income supplement by 10%, taking 20% of seniors out of poverty. Erin O'Toole has been the MP for this riding for 9 years. And when you cast your ballot this election, I want you to ask yourself, what has he done for you in 9 years? And I am asking, Durham is ready for change, and I am asking for your vote this election to be your voice in the House of Commons. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giancroce. Next, I'll ask Mr. Cameron of the New Democratic Party of Canada to give his overview.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Cameron. I'm your NDP candidate for the riding in Durham for the upcoming federal election. I want to thank the Scugog Chamber of Commerce and John for hosting this today. First of all, I do want to acknowledge the lands we're on today, the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation. It's now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, Métis people. We acknowledge that Oshawa is covered under the Williams Treaties, and as a settler on these lands, we are all treaty people. I decided to run in this election because I believe we need change. It's something that over the last few years, maybe we've accelerated knowing what we need for change. The pandemic may have brought that up. It's maybe brought it to the forefront. And one thing that I really believe that we need to do in Durham, and we've seen around the province, around the country, is we need to end private for-profit long-term care. We need to develop national care standards. We need to look at real steps to protect our environment. We need to ensure healthcare is comprehensive. We've noticed the healthcare system struggling during this pandemic. It's not something that just magically happened. It's just happened to accelerate and bring it to the forefront. We want to ensure that you're covered head to toe, including dental and pharmacare. And obviously specific to this, the Scugog Chamber of Commerce, they want to see that small business can flourish. We want to be able to level that playing field. We're going to work to make sure that small business can work against large corporations. We're going to start by rolling back corporate tax to 18% for all corporations. We're going to maintain that business tax rate at its current level. We're also going to look at housing. Housing in Durham is a very interesting state. I struggled buying my first home here as well. It's something where I got outbid, and do you know what? I had to buy and wait a year and a half for a house to be built. We want to do all those things. We can do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Our next speaker will be Ms. Conlon of the People's Party of Canada.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you to the Scugog Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. My name is Patricia Conlon, and I'm the PPC candidate, People's Party of Canada for Durham, and very, very pleased to be here today and running in this critical election for our future. The People's Party of Canada is a platform that resonates with me. I've been a long-term conservative, but having looked at it and witnessed some of the things happening over the last 18 months, I felt called to participate. And this is what I believe the best platform for our future. I'm not a politician. I've been a business professional. I've owned a recruitment firm for over 20 years, so I understand the importance of jobs in all sectors in Canada. Meaningful jobs for Canadians is what I want to help create. I'm a speaker internationally, and I'm an author. I'm a registered holistic nutritionist, so I care deeply about our environment and the connection between our soil, air, and water, and want to help clean that up. I think the People's Party of Canada has the best platform for our future. We want to reduce taxes. Carbon taxes in Durham, in a community that has so many farmers, are an enormous burden. Where does that tax go? Why aren't we cleaning up the water in our First Nation reserves? We want to do a lot for people in Durham. We want to help with housing. We want to eliminate the capital gains tax that protects people's largest asset. We care about people. We want to reform some of the COVID measures that have caused unprecedented harm. I've been out to speak with small business owners, and as a small business owner myself, I feel we need to make important changes for all people to prosper in the future. I care about the health of our community and want to focus on measures that boost physical health, mental health, and help people get back to work. That's going to help our economies flourish. I thank you very much for all of your thoughts, and I look forward to hearing from the other candidates. Canada, as a final word, is a resource country, and the People's Party of Canada wants to unite our country.
Thank you.
Open up our resource sector.
Thank you very much, Ms. Conlon. Our next guest is Ms. Barron, running as an independent.
I'm Sarah. I grew up in Newmarket, so I know what Durham faces in terms of exponential growth and the need for good planning. And that's what this election should be about, good planning by communities across the country. To do that right, we need to be climate crisis courageous. Our G7 partners are meeting and exceeding their carbon cutting targets. Canada is so far behind, it's embarrassing. To catch up, we need to reduce our carbon footprint by 60% in 8.5 years. The good news is it's totally doable by going hard with renewables and efficiencies. That kind of work puts dollars in the hands of small scale workers, which will blossom our economy for decades to come. Aaron doesn't want to talk about that because he wants to keep profits in the hands of his friends in big oil. Aaron's way is an economic nightmare because Canada could be slapped with sanctions from our G7 partners. On my website, sarahforddurham.com, you'll see links to my podcast, Radioactive, and my social media, where I'm relentless in exposing truths about the new nuclear or small modular reactor threat to Canada. Darlington workers are the gold standard in nuclear safety, and we need them to continue to be, because I believe the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission is a captured regulator, and we need some investigation into this. I'm pro-CBC. I am pro-choice. I denounce conversion therapy for LGBT plus youth. I'm an ally to Indigenous people. I have the guts to use the word genocide with respect to the residential school system that happened in our country. I have 2 degrees in Indigenous studies, and I know how to respect and honor the treaties and laws of our country. There is a severe drought in the prairie provinces, and that could repeat. We need a national food security mandate, and I'm hoping that the farmers in Durham will reach out to me and tell me what that should look like, because we need Durham to be climate crisis courageous.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. Now we'll begin our questions. Please, as I mentioned, limit your answers to 2 minutes. We're going to start with Mr. Cameron, and I'll just read the question. As you're aware, there is a severe housing crisis across the country, but especially in North Durham. How do you and your party plan to deal with this crisis?
Thank you, Jonathan. Canada, it's an extremely severe national housing crisis, the fastest growing housing prices in all of the G7, and this shows no sign of slowing. I've experienced this firsthand. I mentioned in the introduction, I spent months being outbid for a home, eventually buying into a development, having to wait a year and a half. And that's just me. There's hundreds and more that can't make rent. They can't afford a house, and there's just not enough supply in North Durham. We see a 25-story building going up on Simcoe Street in North Oshawa. They're building quickly, but it's not enough. So the pandemic accelerated this. We were on this path before 2020. So what we were doing just wasn't working under previous governments. If elected, an NDP government would build at least 500,000 units of affordable housing in the next 10 years. We'll also place stricter rules on CHMC loans to prevent mass renovations that are driving prices up. We'll also implement a 20% foreign buyers tax on the sale of homes to non-Canadian citizens to clamp down on foreign speculation. We'll also make it easier for people to achieve the dream of home ownership by ensuring they have more viable paths. This includes reintroducing 30-year terms on CMHC insured mortgages and allow for smaller monthly payments. We'll also double the home buyer's tax credit to $1,500 to help people cover those closing costs. We know that is expensive. And in the short term, we also need to have a solution. So we will provide up to $5,000 in annual rent subsidies for people struggling with skyrocketing rents. This is a crisis. It's national. I use the example, I'm from the East Coast. The townhome that I have in Durham, we could buy a 5-bedroom house in Nova Scotia. It is a crisis here. We do need to address it. We have the solutions.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Our next speaker will be Ms. Barron, and I'm going to ask the question once again. As you're aware, there's a severe housing crisis across the country, but especially in North Durham. How do you plan to deal with this crisis?
To me, I don't know if I would use the word severe crisis. I don't see people living in the streets. I don't see people living in refugee camps due to famine or fire or war. The crisis here is that it is paradise and everybody wants to move here. So housing prices are skyrocketing. Government tinkering with tax systems, interest rate caps for certain income earners. These are Band-Aid solutions that might help a little, but those old school solutions are not ideal. For me, the solution lies in very intentional community-controlled new builds, and this can and should be incentivized by government because it's our tax dollars after all. If we look at our potential solutions through the climate crisis lens, then everything changes. Let me tell you about Drake Landing. It's a small community in Okotoks, Alberta that was designed intentionally with NRCan funding. It's got the highest building standards, solar on every home, and that solar is stored underground. It meets more than 90% of their community heating needs, including their water heating needs. Could you imagine never having to pay a power bill again? That is our potential reality if we just face the climate crisis head on and think positive. But Durham has some of the best soil in the country. If we're really going to face desertification of the prairie provinces, then we need to stop putting more and more homes on top of Ontario's prime growing soil. If you think the soil itself needs to be valued, please tell me. Economists are all teaching this in first-year university. Negative externalities become negative internalities, and that is our economic future. It starts in Durham, putting a very, very high dollar value on soil and forest degradation. That's the future you will invest in when you send me to Ottawa, a future that keeps Durham beautiful but still prosperous with new builds and designed by you.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. Our next guest is Ms. Conlon. And I'll ask the question once again. As you're aware, there is a severe housing crisis across the country, but especially in North Durham. How do you and your party plan to deal with this crisis?
Thank you, Jonathan. The People's Party of Canada understands this problem and wants to take action for all Canadians. There's some really great initiatives that I love. I've heard from young people and older people alike. Everybody throughout Canada has to face this problem. What the People's Party of Canada wants to do is reduce inflation, eliminate it. That way we'll have more money in our pockets to save and put towards homes. This will also reduce the cost of materials that are going up in unbelievable rate for building homes, lumber, etc. And we also want to reduce the red tape between provinces so that we can transport materials across Canada to help build homes. We want to keep the interest rates low, and that's going to help buyers with those monthly payments as well. And a huge initiative, a massive initiative by the People's Party of Canada is we want to eliminate the capital gains tax. Instead of offering these little tax incentives up front, we want to protect the primary asset of Canadians. And this is a huge advantage for their savings and retirement and passing it along to others in their family. We have a lot of great ideas, and I agree that protecting our soil and our farming community is foundational, but there's new technologies for building energy efficient homes using 3D designs or modular homes even. Incredible communities in Europe that we can follow standards from that are energy efficient and that also are affordable for young people. Cooperative homing, duplexes, all of these solutions could work very well for Durham, but we need to have the money savings for our Canadians so they can afford homes. We also want to limit foreign ownership and speculation. I grew up in an incredible neighborhood where there was a great sense of community. When I left, there were a number of homes bought by foreign owners that were left empty. I would propose a vacancy tax as well on that. We need thriving communities that care about each other. And that means buying a home and living in it. So People's Party of Canada has some incredible ideas that will help people afford homes. We also will potentially cap immigration so that we're looking after existing Canadians.
I'm going to have to stop you there. Ms. Conlon, I'm going to have to stop you there in fairness to everyone else. Thank you very much for your answer. Next, I'll ask Mr. Dean Croce to address the same question, which is, as you're aware, there's a severe housing crisis across the country, but especially in North Durham. How do you plan to deal with this crisis?
So let me be clear. All Canadians deserve a safe and affordable place that they can call home. And many, like myself, see home ownership as an entry into the middle class. Since 2015, we have taken action to combat the housing crisis by the first-time home buyers program. And these are not Band-Aid solutions. These are real action that we're taking to help first-time home buyers. But we know that there's a lot more to do. And that's why I'm actually really excited about our Liberal plan, because we're going to unlock home ownership. We're going to build and repair 1.4 million homes across Canada, which is going to open a ton of opportunity and a ton of supply. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to protect your rights. We're going to introduce a homeowner's bill of rights that's going to protect your rights from the process and make the process of buying a home fairer and more transparent. And the last thing we're going to do, and it's something that I'm really excited about, is getting into the homeowners market, is we're going to create a tax-free home buyer's account. Essentially what that is, it's a tax-free, similar to a tax-free savings account, but every dollar that you earn and that you put into that savings program is going to go towards purchasing your first home. And these are all exciting things that we're going to do. And this is what a re-elected Liberal government is going to do. And it's going to help a lot with the development in Scugog and opening up the supply. As we've seen, as I've heard it at the doors, we see a lot more new developments in the Scugog area, not just in Scugogville, but in North Oshawa, Curtis, and Bowmanville. And these are things that we are going to do to make sure that we take action, and fast action, not a Band-Aid solution, against the housing crisis and opening up the supply.
Thank you, Mr. Giancroce. We'll now give each candidate 30 seconds to rebut. We'll start with Mr. Cameron.
I'd just like to say that, like I said, this is something that, while we are putting some plans in place, past governments haven't addressed this before it really got out of hand and before it became a problem. So we really do want to put some of these things in place, like that 30-year terms. We talk about all these things that we, like I said, Jonathan said, they're going to try and do these things, but their government has had that opportunity in the past. We really do want to talk about some of these new solutions the NDP is proposing. They've had the opportunity before. We're in an election right now that, we could be doing this in 2 more years, but we're doing it now. They had the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Next, I'll ask Ms. Barron to speak.
Patricia, you can't just wish inflation away. With the climate crisis, it is going to get worse, whether we like it or not. Interest rates are already very low. And, you can't just, if you're going to eliminate the capital gains tax so that the rich just keep getting richer, please tell Canadians where that revenue is going to come from that you're eliminating. As for the Liberals and all of them, what type of homes are you building? This is a climate crisis. We need to reduce our carbon footprint by 60%.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. Our next guest is Ms. Conlon.
Thank you very much. The Liberals and the NDP and the Conservatives have come up with fancy tax schemes that may help a little bit, but the foundation of the PPC party is protecting your primary asset. Home ownership is extensive across Canada. Middle-class people need to protect that asset, and that is a huge benefit to Canadians that we support. The supply chain is at risk here. Prices are going up. Inflation is a huge issue. We're going to tackle that to keep material costs low. We're going to limit some of the things that are critical for home ownership on the PPC platform.
Thank you, Ms. Conlon. Next, I'll ask Mr. Giancroce to rebut.
Thank you. So let me be clear. We have a plan that's going to build young homes for not just young families, but for everyone. Our plan is for everyone. And we have a costed, attainable plan. And I wish my Conservative counterpart was here to debate this, but that's okay. But we want to make sure that we have homes for everyone. We're going to build 1.4 million homes across Canada, and that is our plan, and it's attainable and it's costed. Unlike the NDP, we have a costed plan to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Giancroce. I'll now read our next question and ask Ms. Barron to answer first. Businesses are having an extremely difficult time hiring people. How do you and your party plan to handle the shortage of labor in our area?
The issues are linked. People can't live here if they can't afford the housing. It's all linked. If we look at worker shortage through the climate crisis lens, we see that most areas of this planet are really, truly suffering. I feel it behooves us as Canadians to be compassionate and develop a robust climate crisis refugee program that welcomes in workers who want to work into community new builds that are designed to be affordable long-term for the climate crisis and with food security in mind. For example, we could have a 1/4-acre plot of a community garden for every single one of those new homes you see going up. Community gardens build community social cohesion and local food resiliency, which we will need in the climate crisis to come. Remember, if we put a cost on the soil, then construction companies will have to allot some of this gorgeous landscape to forest and gardens. I personally do not have a lot of time for folks who don't want to work. However, a lot of people are on social assistance and they want to get some education or try part-time work. And if they do, social assistance claws that back. With universal basic income, everyone gets a basic stipend. For those of us who don't need it, we can pay it back immediately or perhaps into community service donation portals. But if you're at the poverty line, you can't take that chance of getting some education or a part-time job because it gets clawed back. So universal basic income works very well in European countries, and Canada would do well to transform our punitive social assistance programs into universal basic income. With guaranteed livable income, it's a similar concept, but each region costs out the livable minimum based on parameters like housing costs. It's a method that's more expensive to administer, but it is more equitable if done right.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. Our next speaker will be Ms. Conlon, and I'll ask the same question once again. Businesses are having an extremely difficult time hiring people. How do you and your party plan to handle the shortage of labor in our area?
Thank you. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I've run an employment agency for over 20 years. I've seen people across Canada, people who come from other countries, fled other countries because of the tyranny, come to Canada to make a better life. Meaningful work is foundational to our platform in recovery. The biggest issue facing recovery is the authoritarian policies that the current government, supported by the other governments, have implemented. Lockdowns have failed and caused unprecedented harm, suicide, drug addiction, missed cancer treatments, you name it, it's going on. Some of our citizens here will go bankrupt if there's another lockdown. Measures like mandates and passports, this is medical apartheid going on, and it's affecting our ability to hire and retain people. We have to overhaul these policies. They aren't working and they're harmful. We need medical choice. Freedom of choice in Canada, it's foundational. And people, I get hundreds of emails a day on this topic, and it just breaks my heart. This is wrong in Canada, and we need to address, this is the foundational issue for employment. If we can stop that, the People's Party of Canada will stop these harmful mandates, incorporate training for companies, skilled immigrants, and help people with the mental and physical health issues that have occurred during the last 18 months. I personally train in resilience, and I think we need robust programs to help with stress management for people so they feel motivated to go back to work. I know people want to work, and a meaningful job is foundational to our recovery. Opening up all the sectors, our resource sector, manufacturing, and creating meaningful jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Conlon. Our next guest is Mr. Giancroce. And again, the question, businesses are having an extremely difficult time hiring people. How do you and your party plan to handle the shortage of labor in our area?
Well, as we all know, one of the signs of a strong recovery from this pandemic is when business sectors' growth outpaces their ability to find workers. And in Scugog, that's a great thing because it means that our economy is growing at a faster rate. But we have a plan to assist businesses to help with hiring. We're going to welcome talented workers to Canada. We want to make it easier for workers to relocate for good jobs, keeping experienced workers in the workforce. But that's not all. Our re-elected Liberal government, we want to introduce a great new tax credit called the Labor Mobility Tax Credit to allow workers in buildings and construction and trades to deduct up to $4,000 of eligible travel and temporary relocation expenses, which is giving them $600 a year. And one of the other things that we want to do that I'm really excited about in regards to the agricultural industry, because the agricultural industry in our riding is also looking for labor as well. We want to develop the agriculture-specific labor strategy, and we want to work with employers, farmers, and unions to address this labor shortage. And one of the last things we want to do is we want to continue to deliver $80 million in investment into workers for green jobs. We were there for businesses throughout the pandemic with the Canada with the wage subsidy and the Canada Business Account, which gave $60,000 partially forgiven and interest-free to businesses. And we want to make sure that we continue to be there for businesses when they need us most. That is our plan, and we're going to continue on that path forward for everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Giancroce. Next, I'll ask Mr. Cameron to address the same question, which is businesses are having an extremely difficult time hiring people. How do you and your party plan to handle the shortage of labor in our area?
So obviously, there's numerous sectors that are affected by this. But we want to start off, some businesses are having a hard time hiring skilled labor, especially in the tech industry. So in order to address this aspect, an NDP government is strongly committed to removing the barriers to education and training that many people still face. But by making it easier for more people to access the skills training they need, we can address this skill gap in our economy and get people back to work. a big part of this economy here in Scugog. Many small businesses are in the restaurant and retail sectors. They're also having a hard time finding new staff or keeping existing staff. As work in these sectors, it's become increasingly unstable. Obviously lockdowns and back and forth, not knowing if they're able to work or be open. The cost of living has also climbed. These industries have had an increasingly difficult time finding employees. In order to ensure these businesses have the support they need, an NDP government would ensure the small business rent and wage subsidies continue until small businesses are able to fully open. We also want to put in place a long-term hiring bonus by paying the employer portion of EI and CPP for new or rehired staff. Our commitment to universal pharmacare, it's not only going to bring small businesses a $600 value per employee per year, it will also help the wages small businesses pay go further and allow them to provide additional security for their employees. And finally, a big thing for small business is when it comes to credit card merchant fees. Many small businesses are paying 3-4%, sometimes more. We're going to cap that at 1% to prevent small businesses from being gouged and help them compete with larger corporations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cameron. Now we'll give each candidate 30 seconds to rebut, starting with Ms. Barron.
If Aaron O'Toole had the guts to be here with us today, he would try to buy your vote, telling you that, you could have 50% off on your burger on Wednesdays. All of these other plans are good, but again, it's tinkering. None of them are talking about the climate crisis. If we have jobs that work on efficiencies and renewables now, then that gets all of us back to work. And also, don't believe the hype. They are lying to you. When they talk about green jobs, instead of spending money on renewables and efficiencies that are available now, they're diverting money into these dangerous experiments called small modular reactors.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. Next, I'll ask Ms. Conlon to speak.
Thank you. The PPC Party of Canada has the only truly conservative platform. Where is Aaron O'Toole, leader of the Conservative Party, to support his riding with this critical issue of jobs? The foundational problem are the authoritarian measures around COVID that need to be overhauled, and we need to open up for everybody. Eliminate the lockdowns, passports, and mandates. That's going to free up people to make the right choices with hiring and retain talent in our sector. We're going to support business in every way.
Thank you, Ms. Conlon. Our next guest is Mr. Giancroce.
We as a government have the backs of our businesses. We always have. A re-elected Liberal government is still going to have the backs of our businesses. We were there through the pandemic, and we're going to be there on the way out of the pandemic. My competitors will tell you that they have plans to help us, but realistically, we're the only party that has a costed, well thought out plan to rebuild our economy and rebuild our small businesses. They are the backbone of our economy, and we need to be there to support them.
Thank you, Mr. Giancroce. Next, I'll ask Mr. Cameron to rebut.
During the pandemic, we've seen that it's possible for the government to step up and provide a basic income to Canadians. We need to look at this as something that, again, the NDP can offer. We were talking about an election earlier than 4 years. If there was a plan for businesses from the Liberals, they had the opportunity to continue this, work on this, and they could have held an election 2 years from now.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. I'll now read our next question and ask Ms. Conlon to answer first. Many people feel bringing manufacturing back to Canada is important, especially in automotive, technology, and pharmaceutical. What do you plan to put in place short and long term to bring manufacturing back?
Thank you very much. This is a topic near and dear to my heart as well. I've worked in recruitment in the manufacturing and technology sectors for most of my life. The PPC Party has an amazing plan to build Canada and help us prosper by lowering corporate income tax gradually over time over to 10%. We believe business owners know best how to spend their money and thrive. We're also going to eliminate the capital gains tax. That will allow business owners to invest in their business instead. I know there's there's a lot of new technologies coming up, but it takes money to create them. I've spoken with General Motors, and they do not have the infrastructure yet to set up electronic vehicles, no matter how much we want them. We just aren't there yet. We need to open up our oil and gas sector. Why are we importing oil from Saudi Arabia with all their human rights violations? Canada is a resource country. We need to open up our resources. We do it better than anyone. We need to unify our country with jobs across Canada, open up our pipelines instead of dangerous transportation of oil on rail and cargo ships. And in terms of pharmaceuticals, we need to focus on safe treatments for COVID that are out there, like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine. We're working with experimental vaccines now, but we also need to look at the safe treatments available, because the data is clear. These experimental vaccines are showing issues around safety and effectiveness. This is something our doctors are telling us loudly, and we need to open up dialogue. So pharmaceuticals, safe treatments, manufacturing, all these sectors can open, and our oil and gas sector. We also need to support our farmers. They're the backbone of our society. Food security is critical, and protecting our soil. That's key for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Conlon. Our next speaker will be Mr. Giancroce, and I'll ask the question once again. Many people feel bringing manufacturing back to Canada is important, especially in automotive, technology, and pharmaceutical. What do you and your party plan to put in place short and long term to bring back manufacturing?
Well, manufacturing is a big part of our economy. It really is. And we, in the short term, as a government, we cut taxes in half for businesses that manufacture zero emissions products. We really want to make sure that we support our manufacturing industry. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we invest in green manufacturing and green jobs, like building electric vehicles. So that's why we're going to increase the supply chain and help the motor vehicle companies build electric batteries for their cars. That's a big issue. And we need to make sure that we are there for the manufacturing industry and to protect the jobs. Meanwhile, while we're focusing and investing in the manufacturing and green sector, the Conservatives want to freeze our economy and not move forward. We have a plan to move forward. We want to invest in our manufacturing industry and invest in green jobs, because a green economy is a booming economy. We know that. The Conservatives don't, and we need to make sure that we move forward, not backward.
Thank you, Mr. Giancroce. Our next guest is Mr. Cameron. Again, the question. Many people feel bringing manufacturing back to Canada is important, especially in the automotive industry, in technology, and the pharmaceutical industry. What do you plan to put in place short and long term to bring manufacturing back?
So this pandemic has shown how critical domestic manufacturing is. Unfortunately, many of these industries are on the decline, but to help to make sure that we are not without the capacity to manufacture critical goods again in the future, we're going to develop a comprehensive industrial strategy to expand critical domestic manufacturing capacity and supply chain infrastructure for industries such as auto, construction materials, shipbuilding, pharmaceuticals, and PPE. Obviously, Oshawa, we always say a GM town. It's something I know that many residents in Durham were deeply affected by when GM closed. The recent commitment to reopen parts of the plant, that's a great sign, but it was also a wake-up call on how dire the need is for a comprehensive plan for the auto sector. That is why the NDP will urgently convene an auto summit meeting with provincial, municipal, industry, and labor leaders to develop a national automotive strategy. We'd also like to restore the Automotive Innovation Fund and make contributions to automakers tax-free to help secure the next generation production capacity. Talk about electric vehicles, we can do that right here at home. We will also ensure that federal incentives for zero emission automobiles prioritize made in Canada. That's made in Canada vehicles. And finally, something that many farmers in Durham will benefit from is that the NDP will introduce a payment protection program for produce growers and take immediate steps to restore protection for growers selling to the United States under the Perishable Agricultural Commodities Act.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Next, I'll ask Ms. Barron to address the same question, which is many people feel bringing manufacturing back to Canada is important, especially in the automotive industry, in technology, and in the pharmaceutical industry. What do you plan to put in place short and long term to bring manufacturing back?
If we look at manufacturing through a climate crisis lens, again, everything changes. Retrofitting every home and having the highest standards on all new builds puts money in the hands of small scale workers. This is a giant project, 60% in the next 8.5 years. This is going to blossom our economy. Workers that retrofit windows, doors, insulation, workers that install home self-sufficiency energy systems, workers that put up and maintain wind farms and geothermal energy storage facilities for whole communities. These are good paying middle income jobs. They are jobs that don't require 8 years of university education. This type of worker doesn't want a handout. They just want to work. Manufacturing for the renewables, solar, wind, geothermal, small-scale hydro will have to be localized. Gone are the days of massive factories employing thousands. We can make a lot of goods from 3D printers. We have just-in-time manufacturing. Today's economy is the opposite of the post-World War II industrial revolution. Today, it's small-scale, self-employed, entrepreneur-based, always evolving, and these are good things. As for automotive, we all need to transition to electric cars fast to make a rapid shift, 60% in 8.5 years. I would prefer to incentivize over legislate, but at this point, both are required. We don't need to push that hard. The automotive industry is already going into electric because trust me, I've had an EV for a full year now, and it saves you thousands of dollars. But the automotive industry is also going electric because it's their kids' future at stake too. Business people are smart. We are in this together. We can and will cut our carbon by 60% in 8.5 years, only if Durham is willing to be climate crisis courageous.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. We'll now give each candidate 30 seconds to rebut, starting with Ms. Conlon.
Thank you. People's Party of Canada understands that business owners know best what to do with their money. We are going to support a prosperous and competitive Canada through changes to our taxes, reducing taxes for owners and eliminating the capital gains tax. We're going to support farmers with regenerative farming models that will help reduce costly inputs and heal the soil at the same time, sequester carbon instead of a carbon tax. We care about the economy. And PPC is the only conservative platform out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Conlon. Next, I'll ask Mr. Giancroce to speak.
So let's not forget, while my colleague mentioned GM, we were the ones who worked with GM, Unifor, and the province to make sure that we reopened that plant. The other thing that we did when it comes to manufacturing is we made sure that we can create a Moderna facility to procure vaccines here in Canada. And that's really what we're working on, and that we've got solid. And we're going to continue to reinvest in our manufacturing industry, whether it's electric vehicles, pharmaceuticals, vaccines, and PPE.
Thank you, Mr. Giancroce. Our next guest is Mr. Cameron.
Again, I want to touch on that the pandemic showed us that some of these things were lacking. We really do need to reinvest in ourselves. We talk about vaccines and how we got them from outside our country in past governments. I talk about we're going on a road trip. The NDP has always been a passenger. We want to have the keys to this car. We believe we can bring that back to Canada. We lost that under previous governments. We think we can bring that back with the NDP.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Next, I'll ask Ms. Barron to rebut.
Farmers do not need politicians telling them how to transfer into solar and methane to power their vehicles and homes. We're tied to NATO, and that means we're tied to Saudi Arabia. And don't believe the hype. The other parties have labeled small modular nuclear reactor dangerous experiments as clean and green. So instead of spending money on retrofits, on renewables that are available now, they'll be spending money on their rich friends in these dangerous, dirty distractions.
Thank you to all our candidates for answering the Chamber's questions. We'll now ask each one of them to take 2.5 minutes and summarize their position, starting with Mr. Giancroce.
Thank you. Canada's road to recovery starts at the kitchen table. It's where we meet our loved ones to discuss what's important to us. And that's why our plan is start by working with Canadians to get a roof over their head. But recovery doesn't end there. It continues to the front doors of small businesses, our farms, and our workplaces. It's because of this that we understand this and that we have included increased funding for green technology in our platform. It's a strategy that's helped fill the voids in our economy with the best and brightest, and that includes parents that are right now. And by offering $10 a day childcare, we are offering a choice to all Canadians, a choice that they either stay home with their children, volunteer, or join the workforce. And that's why we're doing this, so that we can enjoy time with our families. And by investing in climate change initiatives, that we can spend more time and as we care more about the outside and enjoying our great outdoors, what our great outdoors has to offer. Whether it's at the advanced polls on election day, I want to remind you, Erin's been MP for this riding for 9 years. And so when you go to cast your ballot, I want you to think, what has Erin done for you in the past 9 years? We are the only party that is going to be able to bring change and win this election. And we are going to do it by being a united progressive voice for our riding. So I'm asking for your vote today. I'm asking you to bring real change to Durham, real change in uniting the progressives and uniting so that we can bring $10 a day childcare to this riding, so that we can bring a greener economy for our children and our grandchildren and make it more affordable homes for our children and grandchildren. And that's why I'm running, and that's why I want to be your voice. So whether it's advanced polls or election day, vote Jonathan Jane Croce for real change in this riding.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll ask Mr. Cameron to summarize.
I'd like to start off in closing by first acknowledging that the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation has been under a boil water advisory for over 10 years. We talked about action being taken in the last election. Action has been far too slow to happen. If this was us, we were talking about being under a boil water advisory, we would not be having the same conversation. It would have been done by now. We are committed to doing more for this community and all First Nations communities across this country. And I chose to run. This is my first time in a federal election. I chose to run with the NDP. I have not always voted NDP in the past. I'm honest. I have voted Liberal before, but I decided to run for the NDP because I believe in their plan. I believe in our plan. I want to work towards taking real steps to protect our environment. We want to make housing affordable. We want that to be a reality. We want to expand high-speed broadband to rural areas. We know this is possible. Other countries have done this. We need access to these things if we're asking people to use these tools. We also want to make sure that healthcare covers you head to toe. Again, we want to make sure, this is very important to our small businesses, that we level that playing field between small business and corporations. We're asked often, how are we going to pay for this? A large portion of this will come from putting corporate tax back to 18%, as well as increasing the top marginal tax rate by 2 points to 35% for those making over $210,000 a year. For millionaires, they'll also be taxed more. I do not have a fancy office. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in people donating to this campaign to pay for a building that's going to sit empty for a week. I have a campaign phone. It comes to my pocket. If you want an accessible candidate, you can call me. If I don't answer you, it's because I'm probably working my day job. I will get back to you, though. I will personally call you back. If you want a candidate that cares about what your concerns are, I am the person for you. Please reach out if you have any questions, and I personally will get back to you. No issue is too small. On election day, I hope you vote Chris Cameron, NDP.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. I'll now ask Ms. Barron to give her summary.
Our country has a severe nuclear waste issue. I chose to run independent in Durham because I know these are pro-nuclear towns. If I can convince a pro-nuclear riding that these new nuclear small modular reactor designs are not okay, that our regulators have been safety compromised, then that's success to me. The Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission arbitrarily changed the licensing period from 4 to 10 years and then gave BWXT, the USA's largest nuclear weapons producer, a blind license to do whatever it wants in that relic of a factory in the middle of Peterborough next door. There's tritium and strontium-90 in the water in Ottawa, and yet the citizens don't know. And upriver, Chalk River Labs has been approved for a small modular reactor that is exempt from an environmental impact assessment, just like the one approved here for Darlington. Most importantly, the small modular reactor approved for the Bay of Fundy is experimental. It says it will recycle our CANDU solid fuel, but what it will really do is liquefy that fuel to extract a wee bit of plutonium. Plutonium is what makes nuclear bombs. The bombs that were dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima were from Canadian uranium, mined here and processed here. In 1974, India got the nuclear bomb from gifts from Canada. Canada must not be ground zero for a new global nuclear weapons race. SNC Lavalin has had access to our country's experimental designs since Harper sold off the Crown Corporation in 2011. In 2015, SNC Lavalin and a few weapons manufacturing partners also gained control of Canadian nuclear labs, where the scientists live. They cut more than 2,000 jobs in 1 year and had no oversight. Small modular reactors will pepper our north, be exported around the planet, and destroy our water supplies forever. There is still no safe plan for the solid can-do waste that we already have. The Liberals have stashed $8 billion in an accelerator fund for small modular reactors. Stephen Harper is chomping at the bit with TerraStar in Oakville. This SMR push is one big con job by Liberals, Conservatives, and their rich friends. We don't need new nuclear for our country's prosperous, beautiful future. Renewables and efficiencies are ready to go right now. Please think wisely when you vote, because Canada needs Durham to be climate crisis courageous.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. Next is Ms. Conlon.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure to speak today. PPC is the fastest growing party in Canada for a reason. We care about people. We have the values of freedom, fairness, responsibility, and respect. We respect our First Nation and want to build fair partnership. I've reached out many times in Durham to honor and speak with them. I know how important this election is. Our freedom is at stake. That's the most important foundation of any democracy. And Benjamin Franklin said it best: any society that will give up a little liberty to gain a little security will deserve neither and lose both. PPC is the only party that's spoken up against these harmful and oppressive mandates that have failed conclusively and scientifically for the last 18 months and have caused great harm. We've spoken out against censorship. Doctors and scientists in Canada are not allowed to speak the truth about what's happening with COVID policies, and this is wrong. We defend our Constitution, and we are the only party that does that. At the same time, we have the only truly conservative platform. We are looking to build prosperity in Canada and unify our country, open up our valuable, rich resource sector, and make Canadians happy again, focus on mental health and well-being, and focus on our prosperity. We oppose the carbon tax. People are already overburdened with taxes, and where does that money go? We want to clean up our air, soil, and water. This is critical and foundational to our health, and we'll do that with regenerative farming policies, putting regulations on some of these very toxic chemicals that are impacting our human health enormously, instead of climate alarmism. We have practical, common sense measures that put Canada first. We're the only party that represents Canada's sovereignty. God bless Canada. I'm proud to be a Canadian, and we need to hang our flag, put it back up high. We need to face the injustices of the past, but we need to understand that Canadians are kind, tolerant people. These divisive policies have no place. I love being a Canadian. I love living in Durham. I will do everything I can to support this community. My website is patriciaconlon.ca. Reach out to me anytime. Follow me on social media. Tell me what your concerns are, and I will do my very best for each and every one of you to help you live a healthy and happy, prosperous life. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for your candid responses and informative answers. I'd like to ask Michael Phillip from the Chamber of Commerce to say a few words. Michael?
Thank you again, Jonathan, and thanks to each of our candidates for showing up and describing their platforms, ideas, and plans for our country's future. It can be hard to get your ideas across in a format such as this, and we appreciate you joining us today to answer some of our questions. I know it is difficult to represent your community and impossible to please everyone. We trust you will each do your best. Next month, the Chamber will be hosting another virtual update for our local businesses, and we will be providing information regarding that soon. We're also underway organizing the Port Perry Santa Claus Parade again this year, and you'll be hearing more about that very soon. I'd like to invite any business owner who's not currently a member to inquire with us how you can join to get access to the many supports we have available. It is important to be active in your local community and to support each other at all times. To quote my friend Jonathan here, community involvement is a great thing. This is important both at a business level and simply as people helping people. The Chamber of Commerce is here to support our members and our community. Thank you again.
That brings our candidate meeting to a close. I'd like to thank Chris Cameron of the New Democratic Party of Canada, Sarah Gabrielle Barron running as an independent, Patricia Conlon from the People's Party of Canada, and Jonathan Giancroce of the Liberal Party of Canada. Thank you all for taking the time today to be part of the Scugog Chamber of Commerce candidate meeting, and all the best on Election Day. And thank you for joining us today. This show will be aired on Rogers TV and the Chamber's YouTube channel. I'm Jonathan Van Bilsen, and remember, September 20th is your chance to make a difference.
Hi, I'm Aaron O'Toole, and I'm running for re-election as your Member of Parliament in Durham. I'm also the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, and I'm running to be your Prime Minister, to fight for you and your family. It's amazing to think that a kid from Port Perry in Bowmanville is standing before Canadians asking for their trust to be Prime Minister. I think Canada's best days are ahead of us. But like you, I'm worried about the future, whether it's tackling the rising cost of living, housing affordability in the Durham region, gridlock, or hospital wait times. I believe it's time we had a Prime Minister who understands the challenges and opportunities 905 families face, someone who's going to fight for the Durham region and for all of Canada. Only Canada's Conservatives have a plan to get Canada's economy back on track and to secure the future for all Canadian families. With our Canada's Recovery Plan, we will recover the 1 million jobs we lost during the pandemic within 1 year. We will build 1 million homes over 3 years, and we will stop foreign buyers from driving up costs. We'll lower grocery bills and cell phone bills along with gas bills through more competition. We'll make historic multi-billion-dollar investments in our public health care system that we've all relied on through this pandemic. And locally, we'll support all-day, two-way GO rail service every 15 minutes on the Lakeshore East Line, a line I used to take when I commuted into the city. It's time that Durham had someone that's going to fight for you and your family. I'd ask you, help us to secure the future. Vote Conservative.
Greetings to all those in Durham. My name is Adam Smith, and I will be your Rhinoceros Party candidate for this 2021 federal election. I love the riding of Durham. It's where I feel most at home and spend most of my time. I am also a people person. I love to make people happy and feel joy in their lives. The lovely people of Durham aren't feeling that right now. You need and deserve a person who listens to you. I am proud to be representing the Rhino Party in Durham in this election. Canada finds itself in a state of economic mishaps and civic turmoil. There is so much unrest going on across Canada, with some very real existential threats that face Canadians. Canada has become very polarized. Amidst all this chaos and disorder is where the creature of the rhinoceros thrives. When we all need to get through the terrible events of the past year, who better than a rhino like myself? So, if you are feeling disillusioned by the major parties, their stream of lies, and terrible candidates, you are welcome here in the Rhino Party. Rhinos are strong and resilient, and we will not let you down. Shake things up and elect a rhino to be your next member of Parliament for Durham. You can learn more about me and my promises at adamsmithfordurham.com. On September 20th, please vote Adam Smith.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.